Happy Super Bowl weekend. I'm Cole Young, and the Super Bowl is probably my favorite day of the year, so I am very excited to get right into it. But I first have to mention, this is the 1-year anniversary of this show. Happy first birthday to Sports Corner. Now, I figured I'd start off by bringing you up to speed on how we got to this point in the Super Bowl. Philadelphia was the last unbeaten team this season, showcasing its dominance all year as the Eagles sprinted to a 13-1 start and locked up the #1 seed in the season's final week. The Eagles cruised through the playoffs, becoming the first team in NFL history to win consecutive playoff games by scoring 30-plus points and allowing fewer than 10 points. The Eagles took down the New York Giants and then the #2 seed San Francisco 49ers to punch their ticket to Glendale. The Eagles were led by MVP frontrunner quarterback Jalen Hurts, who threw for 22 touchdowns and ran for another 13 despite missing a few games with a shoulder injury. The two biggest factors in the Eagles' success this season were their dominant offensive line and their key free agency pickups during the offseason. The Eagles were a top 10 team in terms of fewest sacks allowed. Hurts had all day to throw basically all year long. Pro Bowl linemen like Lane Johnson and Jason Kelce led the charge up front for Philly and cleared passing and rushing lanes, which in turn created a prolific offense. In terms of adding talent, the Eagles signed players such as Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, James Bradbury, and more. These additions complemented superstars already on the defense, such as Darius Slay, Fletcher Cox, and Hassan Reddick. All of these players and more led to Philly having the #1 ranked pass defense this season, which will be a very large factor in stopping Patrick Mahomes. Speaking of Patrick Mahomes, there was almost zero doubt he would lead this Chiefs team to another deep playoff run, except for me when I tried to be risky and predict the Chiefs wouldn't make the playoffs, but that's neither here nor there. I'll get back to Patrick Mahomes, but speaking of the Eagles' dominant O-line, the Chiefs have a very, very good pass rush. The Chiefs ranked 3rd in pressures and 2nd in sacks this season. The KC D-line is led by Chris Jones, who has a tendency to take over games entirely and finished this season with 15.5 sacks. On the other side of the ball, KC has one of, if not the best, quarterback-tight end duos ever in Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Mahomes, another MVP candidate, led the Chiefs to a 14-3 record and the #1 seed in the AFC. Mahomes threw for a league-high 5,250 yards and 41 touchdowns and another 4 rushing touchdowns. As everyone knows by now, Mahomes is the master of escaping the pocket and making off-balance throws on seemingly broken plays. This will be a trait Mahomes needs to rely on facing this Philly defensive line. And a target Mahomes finds more often than not is tight end Travis Kelce. Kelce finished the regular season with 110 catches for 1,338 yards and 12 touchdowns and was a major contributor in the Chiefs' playoff wins, including a 14-reception game against Jacksonville in the divisional round. Now, before I get into my predictions, I'll go over a few of the major storylines surrounding the big game that you will hear all weekend if you haven't heard them already. First, this is the first time in NFL history that two brothers will face off against each other. Travis and Jason Kelce are two of the best players on their respective teams and will both have major impacts on the outcome of this game. Coach Andy Reid of the Chiefs is facing his former team, the Eagles, who he led to 5 NFC championships and 1 Super Bowl before taking over the Chiefs and winning a Super Bowl with them in 2019. For weeks, all analysts and networks have talked about Patrick Mahomes' ankle. Mahomes suffered a high ankle sprain against the Jaguars, but hasn't missed a game since, so we'll see how bad it affects him on Sunday. And lastly, this Super Bowl is historic as this is the first time that the Super Bowl has had 2 black starting quarterbacks. Time to make my predictions. I think that the Chiefs' experience in recent Super Bowls will help them come out quick and strong and jump to an early lead. But once Jalen Hurts and the rest of the Eagles find their footing and push out the emotions and nerves, they'll put some big points on the board. After incredible matchups between O-line and D-line on both sides, I think the Eagles will be able to take advantage of throwing lanes left by the Chiefs' defense and subpar secondary, and the Eagles will come out on top. I imagine the Eagles will win by a score of around 30-27. It will most definitely not be a blowout. Kickoff is this Sunday at 3:30 p.m. With that, enjoy the Super Bowl weekend and our last day of football for the next 6 or 7 months. Tune back in next Friday to hear my recap and analysis of this year's Super Bowl. I'm Cole Young, and I can't thank all you enough for tuning in every Friday and allowing me to host Sports Corner for the past year. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.